Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for Coach the Coach Radio. Brought to you by the Business RadioX Ambassador Program, the no-cost business development strategy for coaches who want to spend more time serving local business clients and less time selling them. Go to brxambassador.com to learn more. Now, here's your host.
Lee Cantor here, another episode of Coach the Coach Radio, and this is going to be a fun one. Today on the show, we have Janine Monize with Gem Revealed. Welcome, Janine.
Well, hello, Lee. How are you today?
I am doing great. Appreciate you coming on. But before we get started, can you share a little bit about Gem Revealed? How you serving folks?
Oh, my goodness. I would love to talk about Gem Revealed. It's definitely a passion point for me. So Gem Revealed it's newer company. It's about 18 months old, and it is what I would describe as a boutique matchmaking company, but more so it is really a relationship coaching and life coaching company to really help people focus on themselves and the growth that's needed to really fall into a healthy relationship. And I use matchmaking as sort of the carrot, and just don't tell anybody that piece. let's not share that. But yes, so matchmaking, boutique matchmaking, really focusing on your best self journey.
Now, what's your backstory? How'd you get into this line of work?
Yeah, I think I've been in human development, self-mastery for almost 20 years, which is certainly significant to sharing my age there. But it's been quite a fun journey. And I would tell you that if we really dive back, where I probably learned the most in my people skills came from being a hairstylist. I was a hairstylist for 18 years, and I absolutely loved it. And that is really where my people skills kicked in. And then I went to a Tony Robbins seminar, and it changed the trajectory of my life. I went back to school, and I went back to college as more mature in my life, did the night school thing, and got a degree in biblical counseling. And from there, that wasn't enough. Guru in education, and I went and got certified from Coaches Training Institute in relationship coaching, business coaching, and life coaching. And I fell into the best corporate job for the DeJulius Group. It is just an incredible company, and it was a tiny little company back then. And I met the owner, John DeJulius, and today, he is considered probably the authority on creating a world-class customer service organizations, really focusing internally and externally, clients and team members. How do we really make them raving fans? How do we create loyal fans? And I absolutely loved that job. I was behind the scenes at Starbucks and Disney and Lexus, Harley Davidson, really figuring out how we create raving fans for these companies. And that was a big gig. It was a great gig. And going through a really hard divorce, I couldn't travel anymore. And I wound up with Ashley Home Stores. And that is the number one brand in furniture in the world. So I was able to become, for our franchise, I was really able to help create them become the number one franchise in all of the 800 different locations. So that was a really great gig as well. And really it was focusing on how we created unbelievable leaders within the company. And that toolbox that I had created to really help people become their best self throughout the company, I transferred it out into Gem Revealed, and it's the same exact toolbox, really focusing how do we as individuals really look to become the best version of ourselves. And thus Gem Revealed was born. And the reason Gem Revealed was born is because this is a staggering statistic. 1 out of every 2 marriages today are failing. And that it creates complete havoc in our communities, with our children, with our finances, in our homes. And if 1 out of every 2 marriages are failing, why is that? Why are we okay with disposable relationships? And so when I left the corporate world and I was building Gem Revealed, I really thought, well, what am I most passionate about? What do I really want to do? How do I want to make a difference in the world? And I really took the same exact tool belt, creating great leaders, and really pushed it into this whole matchmaking relationship coaching company. And I have to tell you, it's making a significant difference out in the world.
So now, do you find that the folks you're working with, they have kind of the skills to have a quality relationship, but they're doing something to either not make the wisest choice when it comes to partner, or is it something that they're doing to self-sabotage? Like, what are the kind of the mistakes that you're seeing being made by folks?
Yeah, that's a vast question. It's big. It's a big question. So first, I would just share my target audience is usually between 40 and 60, and that more than likely it's women and a few gentlemen really coming out of divorce. And at some point, what people are doing is we're just falling into a relationship, and most of the time, it's physical attraction that's pulling us in. And then we take this robotic approach and we start getting to know people, and there's, intimacy is created, and there's other things that start creating this emotional connection before we're taking the time to get to know somebody. And that's the key problem right there. And whatever's in your past, if you haven't dealt with that yet, if you haven't really learned a really strong ability to communicate, or if you're somewhat of an insecure person, all that baggage is going to come forward into the next relationship. But more importantly, what I would point out, and this is the money spot right here, is most people don't know themselves well enough, and they're just compromising. They want the relationship. I'll even maybe use the word desperate to be in a relationship, and they don't know themselves well enough. So they just, again, get pulled in by some sort of emotional connection or physical connection without really taking the time to find out, is there true alignment with this person? Are we really going to have a relationship that is filled with fulfillment instead of friction and compromise? And so the first thing that we do in Gem Revealed, of course, we'll get to the matchmaking piece of it, but that's way down the road. The first thing we want to do, and this sounds trite or trendy, we want to find your purpose. But if you really think about it, if you stand firm for a moment, what is your purpose? What is it that lights you up? What gets you out of bed in the morning? And if you're not running after that dream, if you just got the 9-to-5 job and you're just showing up to get the paycheck, then your relationship becomes what you're living for, and you don't have anything that's driving you. And if you don't have that, that's going to make your relationship the savior. And that's too much pressure for anyone. Every person listening, you need to be going after, what is that purpose? What are those big ambitions? What is it that's driving you and exciting you? That should be the main thing, because honestly, that makes you more exciting. It makes you more interesting, and it makes you more confident, and you're bringing something to the table. That gives you that, it just allows you to have more personality and character. Once you have that, now when you meet that person, that potential soulmate, when you come together, you've got to mine and have organic conversations to see, is there alignment with my purpose and where this person is headed? Because if not, once again, you're going to slip into this relationship, claim it and deem it as, this is it, he's my partner, she's my partner. And you wake up one day down the road, and it could be a year, 2, 3 years later, and go, how'd I get here? How'd I get here? Instead of taking the time to know yourself and what you want. And that's only one piece of a larger toolbox, but that's just one example. And before I go any further, I'd just love to know your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, I think that, you have to get yourself right in order to find the right partner. Absolutely. I'm 100% in agreement there. Now, do you find that folks are, like you said, maybe they're focused too much on the other person, and maybe they get hypnotized by some of the superficial things rather than more, exploring layers deep before they really get involved in the relationship? Is there work that they can be doing on themselves to make themselves, you mentioned, kind of understanding your why and your purpose in order to get yourself ready to almost be found by that soulmate rather than you out there kind of lifting up every rock looking for the soulmate, but to create something that's more like a magnet, that the right person is kind of coming to you.
Wow. So Lee, you actually nailed it. You said it so beautifully. So that's why I allow matchmaking to be the carrot, because most people think matchmaking is the answer, and it's not. Of course, I'm willing to walk with you in that journey, but not before we do the true inner work. Because exactly what you said, once you do the inner work, I've seen it. Now I've seen it over and over and over again. You attract something radically different into your life. When your confidence is secure, when you're communicating from a place of trust and value and self-worth, your life becomes totally different. And this might seem like, unicorns and rainbows to some people, but you got to go and do the hard work. You got to make sure that you're doing what is the purpose. Look at your mindset. Look at the limiting beliefs. Hire a qualified coach to really help dig in and create the achievable action plan. Create it so you're moving towards that. Now you're going to find yourself with like-minded people. And the next piece that, we were moving towards, like, what can people do? Outside of really zeroing in on your purpose, you really need to identify your core values, your life principles. These are critical to a healthy relationship. Most people don't know out of the gate, what are my core values? But intrinsically, they are our guardrails. They should be the decision makers for our life. So what's an example of that? So for me, one of my very, very deep and strong core values is my faith. So my faith is a pillar. It's a cornerstone. It's a non-negotiable. So for me, if I'm looking and I'm out and I'm focusing on my faith and being the best person I could be, that's so important for me that I would have to make sure I know when I'm looking for a relationship, that's got to show up first. I've got to mind and have organic conversation and see, is there an alignment there? There's alignment there. And that's an easy example. But let me give you one that might not be so easy, but it's so important to understand and know yourself. Maybe knowing those top 5 non-negotiable core values that you demonstrate every day. And if you fall out of it, it becomes chaos, confusion, and friction. So another one for me is I'm incredibly spontaneous, maybe, real big in adventure. And that doesn't mean that I have to find somebody exactly the same, but I would have to know that they would be okay with somebody like myself who goes to Africa and comes back, and I adopted a child without, hey, I'm divorced, but went to Africa and I brought back a child. That's a big deal. Went to Cancun, I brought back a dog. These are the things that show up in my life intrinsically. So if I met somebody, I would want to know that's something. If they value security and peace, we might not be a great fit. There might be alignment, there might not. But you got to be able to zero in on these things ahead of time, before you open your heart, before you allow intimacy, and before you get that great deep connection. Make sure the core pillars, your core values. Another one for me is health and wellness. It's so strong in my life. It's not just like I like to get up and, go for a walk in the morning, but it's a deep, deep value maker. It's my decisions for my life. Therefore, that would have to show up in somebody else's life. So knowing your core values and knowing if there would be alignment with your core values with a potential soulmate. You want to do that organic conversation up front, not an interview, not an interrogation, but you maintain a friendship until you know there's true alignment, that you could see a deeper, bigger, more mature commitment when there's true alignment and beautiful communication.
Now, it makes sense to me that you would have at least got some of the foundation of this kind of philosophy that you bring to the table through your business work, because I interview a lot of business folks that are coaches around business, and it sounds like that's the same kind of strategy when they're looking for their ideal customer, ideal client, that you want to have a match. You're doing more curating than you are of choosing, and you're making sure that you're kind of matched with the right clients so that you can serve them to the best of your ability. So I think there's definitely a thread that goes between the business world and your world when it comes to matchmaking, because to me, that's sales 101 is what you're describing. You might be describing it for a person's individual, their life partner, but it works just as well as your client or even your business partner.
Would you believe, Lee, I never changed 1 ounce in my toolbox. My leadership and sales toolbox is exactly the same. And that's what I was able to do for 20 years and had an incredible, successful career. And exactly what you said. How do we really, sales 101, you want to really make sure you get to know that person in front of you. You're asking them really deep questions until you realize there's no energy left and you understand the pain. You understand the pleasure, and then you focus on the pain to really make sure you give them the solution. And it's really no different. There is no difference in what I'm doing. I'm really helping people understand what is the pleasure of being with this person, what's the pain in being with this person, and have you vetted out where those core values align and where your purpose is. And most of people, especially in the age ranges of 40 and 60, they desperately want to be in that relationship. And they add in all kinds of stuff up front. They're blaming people. They're blaming their spouse. They allow, the sexual intimacy to come into the relationship way before the relationship is ready. And then it becomes a disposable relationship. And today, you could just see it everywhere in our society. Relationships are falling apart. There's no framework for success. And this is really blowing up our community. It's blowing up our children. And Lee, it's blowing up the workforce, because if you're not really secure at home, if you're in pain, if you are being verbally abused, if you think your loved one is out cheating on you, if you think somebody doesn't care for you anymore, that's going to show up in the workforce. So unless you're really secure, looking in the mirror and doing the self-work, and I need to say it over and over again, it is not pie in the sky. This is deep down. Listen to the books, the podcasts, get the right books, get the coach that's going to pull you from where you are now to your best self journey. These are really important character traits and action steps that every person needs to go through.
Yeah.
Even if you're in a relationship, you need to enhance the one that you have.
And, it's choose wisely, because there are ramifications of not getting this right. This is probably, choosing your partner is probably the biggest decision you're going to make. And if just choose wisely, because a mistake here has ramifications, like you said, and ripple effects down the road for the rest of your life.
Well, yes. So 2 very quick stories, and I won't even make it a story, more of a snapshot, is I am divorced. And Lee, if I had known this toolbox back then, I can comfortably and confidently say I wouldn't be divorced. My marriage was salvageable, but yet I didn't have the tools. I did not have the tools. I was married at 22 and I was divorced by the time I was in my early 40s. And, that's sad. It was sad for my children. It was sad all around. And if I look back, I'm certainly not seeking all the blame. That's not what I'm doing. But all I would say is if I knew what I knew today, I would not have been divorced. I went into a marriage thinking that man is supposed to make me happy. And that's not what happened. And therefore, I did not have the tools to really figure it out and wanted the grass to be greener and left. I still live an incredibly blessed life. But now to move forward, without having the toolbox that I have today, I allowed myself to be in a relationship that was really focused on that person, exactly what we were saying before. I love this person. I care about this person. He's an incredible friend, just a wonderful human being. But our core values are not aligned. And I allowed that relationship. Are you ready for this? 10 years. 10 years I stayed in that relationship, going back and forth, knowing that the core values weren't aligned until I finally was able to say, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Why am I not worth having what I want? And so it took a lot to walk away from a beautiful human being. This is not about abuse or anything like that. This is a beautiful human being, but I was living in compromise. I was not living in fulfillment. And I would ask everybody who's listening, are you living in fulfillment or are you living for your significant other? And if you're living for your significant other, if you're married, you need to work it out. But if you're just in a relationship, I encourage everybody, do your due diligence. Get to know who you are and live for a purpose that's big. Have big, lofty ambitions. There are coaches out there, qualified coach that could help you live such a beautiful, fulfilling life. And then, like Lee said earlier, then you're a magnet for somebody else who's going to come along and light your relationship on fire.
Well, if somebody wanted to learn more about your practice and have a conversation with you or somebody on the team, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Wow, several ways. So Gem Revealed is on every social media platform as Gem Revealed. Then also my name, Janine Monize. Find me on all social media platforms, on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn. And then they can also just email me at hello@Gem, that's GEM, Revealed, REVEALED, GemRevealed.com. hello@GemRevealed.com. They can email and just say, I'd love to know more, and we'll get back to you within 24 hours for sure.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story today. You're doing important work, and we appreciate you.
Lee, this was a pleasure and a privilege.
All right, this is Lee Cantor. We'll see y'all next time on Coach the Coach Radio.